Topic: Nature and scope of cartography, types and classes of maps. Dear students, in this episode, we are going to discuss on the nature and scope of cartography, types and classes of maps. This episode consists of the following sub-modules: Introduction, Need for maps, Basic characteristics of maps, Type of maps, Categories of maps, Classified by scale, Classified by function, Classified by subject matter, and Scope of cartography. Introduction. What is a map and what is cartography? To answer these questions, we will look at how cartography fits into our endeavor to know and communicate. Next, we will consider the characteristics maps share. We will then explore the purposes and how special needs have led to a number of map types and forms, and finally, the scope of cartography. Written and verbal languages allow us to develop ideas and expose themes in a variety of ways, ranging from particularly articles to literary creations and dramatics which evoke emotional responses. The use of the written language is called literacy, while the use of spoken language is called articulacy. Other ways of communication is the graphic methods which extend from drawing and painting to the construction of plans and diagrams. The use of graphics to capture the spatial structure of environment is the subject of cartography. The graphical setting is what we call a map. Cartography is the making and study of maps in all their aspects. Cartography is an important branch of graphics since it is an extremely efficient way of manipulating, analyzing, and expressing ideas, forms, and relationships that occur in 2- and 3-dimensional space. It also includes the collection, collation, and manipulation of data, and the design and preparation of maps, charts, plans, and atlases. The need for maps. Cartography is concerned with reading the spatial characteristics of a large area, a portion or all of the Earth or another celestial body, and putting it in form to make it observable. Maps range from tiny portrayals on postage stamps to enormous wall maps used by civilians and military security groups to keep track of events and forms. They all have one thing in common: to add to the geographical understanding of the viewer. Today, there are many different kinds of map making, and the objectives and techniques seem very different. However, all maps have the same goal of communicating spatial relationships and form. A detailed map of a small region depicting its landforms, drainage, vegetation, settlement patterns, roads, geology, or a host of other detailed distributions communicates the relationships necessary to plan and carry on many types of work. Building a road, a house, a flood control system requires prior mapping. Basic characteristics of maps. All maps are concerned with two elements of reality: locations and attributes. Locations are positions in 2-dimensional space, such as places with the coordinates x and y. Attributes are qualities or magnitudes, such as languages or temperatures. From these two basic elements, many relationships can be formed. All sorts of topological and metrical properties of relationships can be identified and derived, such as distance, directions, adjacency, patterns, networks, and interactions. A map is therefore a very powerful tool of spatial analysis. All geographical maps are reductions. Thus, the map is smaller than the regions it portrays. Each map has a defined dimensional relationship between reality and the map. This relationship is called scale. All maps involve geometrical transformations. It is common to transform a spherical surface to a surface that is easier to work with, such as computer screens or a flat map sheet. Such a systematic transformation is called map projections. The choice of map projection affects how a map should be used. It is often convenient to use map referring systems called plane coordinate grids. These coordinate systems help us calculate distance and directions from the map. Coordinate systems depend on map projections for their accuracy. All maps use signs to stand for elements of reality. The meanings of these signs make up the symbolism of cartography. Few symbols used on maps have universal meanings, just as few words mean the same thing in all languages. All map symbols used to portray data consist of various kinds of marks such as lines, dots, colors, tones, patterns, and so on. When using a map, we must constantly convey the symbols with those in a legend. Types of maps. The following is a list of each major map type used by geographers and a description of what they are and an example of each kind. A political map. A political map does not show any topographic features. It instead focuses solely on the state and national boundaries of a place. They also include the locations of cities, both large and small, depending on the detail of the map. A common type of political map would be one showing the states and their borders along with international borders. Physical map. A physical map is one that shows the physical landscape features of a place. They generally show things like mountains, rivers and lakes, and water is also shown with blue. Mountains and elevation changes are usually shown with different colors and shades to show relief. Normally on physical maps, green shows lower elevations while browns show high elevations. Low elevation coastal regions are shown in dark green while the higher elevations transition from orange to dark brown. Rivers are shown in blue. Topographic map. A topographic map is similar to a physical map in that it shows different physical landscape features. They are different, however, because they use contour lines instead of colors to show changes in the landscape. Contour lines on topographic maps are normally spaced at regular intervals to show elevation changes. Example, each line represents 100 foot or 30 meters elevation change. And when the lines are close together, the terrain is steep. For example, topographic maps showing the contour lines that are close together near the steep, high elevation mountains. By contrast, the low elevation, flat coastal areas show contour lines that are spread apart. Climate map. A climate map shows information about the climate of an area. They can show things like the specific climatic zones of an area based on the temperature, the amount of snow an area receives, or average number of cloudy days. These maps normally use colors to show different climatic areas. An economic or resource map shows the specific type of economic activity or natural resources present in an area through the use of different symbols or colors depending on what is being shown on the map. For example, an economic activity map can use colors to show different agricultural products of given areas, letters for natural resources, and symbols for different industries. Road map. A road map is one of the most widely used map types. These maps show major and minor highways and roads, depending on detail, as well as things like airports, city locations, and points of interest like parks, campgrounds, and monuments. Major highways on a road map are generally red and larger than other roads, while minor roads are a lighter color and a narrower line. Thematic map. A thematic map is a map that focuses on a particular theme or special topic, and they're different from the 6 aforementioned general reference maps because they do not show natural features like rivers, cities, political subdivisions, elevation, and highways. If these items are on a thematic map, they are background information and are used as reference points to enhance the map's theme. Categories of maps. Maps can be classified on the basis of scale, their functions, and the subject matter. Classified by scale. Map scale is the ratio between a distance on the map and the corresponding distance on the Earth, with the distance on the map always expressed as 1. When a small scale is used to show a large area, a world map, that map is described as being a small scale map. If a map the size of this page showed only a small part of reality, it would be described as a large scale map. Map with a reduction ratio of 1 to 50,000 or less, for example, 1 to 25,000, would be a large scale map, and maps with a ratio of 1 to 500,000 or more, for example, 1 to 100,000, would be considered as small scale maps. A representative fraction, or RF, is a simple fraction or ratio. It may be shown either as 1:100,000 or 1 by 100,000. This means that 1 mm or 1 cm or 1 inch on the map represents 100,000 mm, cm, or inches on the ground. Classed by function. If we try to divide maps in the classes based on their functions, we can recognize 3 main classes of maps: general reference maps, thematic maps, and charts. General reference maps. The objective of the map is to show the locations of a variety of different features such as water bodies, coastlines, and roads. These are called general reference maps. Large-scale general reference maps of land areas are called topographic maps. They are usually made by public agencies using photogrammetric methods. Example, the Survey of India. Small-scale general reference maps are typified by the maps of states, countries, and continents in atlases. They are greatly reduced and generalized. They cannot attain the details and positional accuracy of large-scale maps. Thematic maps. A second class of maps called thematic or special purpose maps concentrates on the distribution of single attribute or theme or the combination of several themes. For example, map showing the distribution of population, temperature, pressure, or average annual income. Just because a map details mainly with a single class of phenomenon does not mean that it is a thematic map. Maps showing soils, rocks, or population density can be classified as general reference maps if the objective is to show the locations of these features. Charts. Maps specially designed to serve the needs of navigator, nautical and aeronautical are called charts. Navigators plot their courses, determine positions, mark bearings and so on. The marine equivalent of the topographic map is called the bathymetric map. Classes by subject matter. It is sometimes useful to group maps on the basis of their subject matter. Probably among the earliest permanent maps were drawings to accompany the cadastre, the official list of property owners and their land holdings. These drawings are called cadastral maps. Closely allied to cadastral maps but more general in nature is a category of large-scale maps called plans. They are detailed maps showing buildings, roadways, boundary lines, visible in the ground and administrative boundaries. For example, the Ordnance Survey of UK, the very large-scale plans form the bars of the topographic map series. There is no limit to the number of classes of maps that can be created according to their dominant subject matter. Thus, there are soil maps, geological maps, climatic maps, population maps, economic maps, statistical maps, and so on. Scope of cartography. We can liken cartography to a drama played by two actors, the map maker and the map user, with two stage properties, the map and the data domain. The map maker selects the information from the data domain and puts it in map format. The user then observes and responds to this information. Thus, there are four processes in cartography: collecting and selecting the data for mapping, manipulating and generalizing the data, designing and constructing the map, reading or viewing the map, and responding to or interpreting the information. In order to master these processes, the cartographer must be familiar with all mapping activities, including those associated with the other mapping sciences like geodesy, surveying, photogrammetry, remote sensing, and geographic information systems. A skilled cartographer also must know a great deal about human thought and communication and the disciplines associated with the environmental features being mapped. It takes knowledge, skills, and experience to express in map form the essential characteristics of environmental data. Geographers are the primary users of maps, but they are not the only ones. People in the sciences, engineering, and humanities also see the map as a valuable way to organize and express ideas. Cartographers must be sensitive to the mapping needs of these diverse fields.